and welcome to another episode of Off the Ruck with me, John Ferguson. Well, that is it. The Wallabies' first side for the TRC, the Rugby Championship, has just been announced, and there are a couple of curveballs. Apologies, I am doing this at 10:30 at night now that the squad has been announced here in Australia, and I know it's been announced in South Africa in the afternoon, but this is just what we have to work with when we're playing a global game, the time zones, and so I'm going to get this video to you as quickly as I can so that you guys have to look forward to it, to view it, to then share it on to those rugby lovers that you have in and around you, and then also give me a quick comment and a like down in the comments below. I want to be down there with you guys discussing all the rugby that's about to happen on the weekend, whether it's All Blacks Pumas, whether it's Wallabies versus Springboks, all of it. Let's just get straight into it then. The Wallabies have named a pretty experienced side. Now, some of this is out of necessity, some of it is just out of the fact that these are the players that they have on hand. So from top to bottom, I'll whip the team up here, and then the first thing you want to go to is number 10, James O'Connor being picked in the starting jersey for the first time since 2022. This is an incredible move by Joe Schmidt, but this actually comes off the back of his hand being forced by the fact that Ben Donaldson has been injured in training this afternoon, picked up a lower limb injury, whether it's calf, ankle, we're not quite sure just yet, but nonetheless, that has ruled him out, and he is getting scans on his ankle as being reported on the raw.com and elsewhere as well. So this is actually pretty major for the Wallabies fly half stocks, because without James O'Connor, they would only be being able to go to the likes of Tane Edmed, who has only played a couple of minutes off the bench in one test. So this is really testing the waters here for Joe Schmidt, and I would not be surprised should these injuries to the likes of Ben Donaldson and Tom Liner be for a lengthier period of time. I would not be surprised to see Bernard Foley join the fold at some point later down the line if those injuries prove to be quite lengthy. So that's in the future. We're here in the now. James O'Connor is an experienced head who has been finishing really well for the Crusaders with his stint over there in 2025. And it was always touted for him to be able to come into this environment now as a full-time member, being announced for the Lions squad, but then to be able to be here now and to be starting in the jersey. Donaldson would have been on the bench had he been fit, but now James O'Connor has to play the full 80 minutes. He is a smart operator. He has been here before, and he is definitely someone who knows how to kick to the corners, plug them away, and to keep the Springboks at bay and get the Wallabies into the right parts of the field. So the selection of James O'Connor is actually really, really exciting from a tactical perspective. He may not have the running game anymore of Ben Donaldson, and may not have played as many games with this side as a Tom Liner or a Nola Lucio or a Ben Donaldson, but nonetheless, his experience across this side, across the Wallabies test and also club, is going to prove invaluable for the Wallabies in what is a really, really difficult place, a cauldron of rugby, if you like, which is Ellis Park at altitude. So James O'Connor knows a little bit about that, and so that his expertise are going to be invaluable. Partnering him at number 9, they've retained Nick White after his stellar performance in the final test of the British and Irish Lions series. And although it is like a Johnny Farnham, it is the shortest retirement of all time, really. He didn't even get a chance to hang up the boots for a week. He just got straight on the flight to South Africa and now is starting next to James O'Connor. Nick White has also played at Ellis Park before, as well as James Slipper. So they are the only 3 that have played at Ellis Park previously, so in a gold jersey. So that is going to be pretty amazing to see what the rest of the members make up of this absolutely amazing adventure into South Africa. But the main thing with Nick White is that his kicking game is absolutely ace, and that is going to have to be the case once again here at altitude. And I think that he's going to get, obviously, as all kicks do, a little bit more height, a little bit more length, and that will be able to bring in the wingers of the likes of Max Jorgensen and Dylan Peach, who have been retained from that third Lions test. Dylan Peach, a much more abrasive, physical, he loves the contact, and he's also really good at the breakdown, having previously played in the back row back in school, and he's also been in the Sevens program, so he has that all-round skill set at his disposal, and he will definitely be using that in the wider channels should one of the smaller Springbok wingers get caught by themselves, and that is Edwil van der Merwe and the other scrum cap wearing whippet in Kurtley Arendse. So that is a really exciting matchup there. Max Jorgensen, we've seen what he's been able to do in the Lions series. He's extremely quick, got great feet, but I don't think that's going to be as much of an impact against the likes of van der Merwe and Kurtley Arendse, because they are going to be equally as quick, if not quicker. So then if we head into the center pairings, we've got Lenny Kitau and Joseph-Aukuso Suaalii for their 4th consecutive test. They are starting to build on this partnership, and it is really, really good to see that the fact that that Joe Schmidt is trusting this combination. And although I am a huge advocate for seeing Hunter Paisami in the 12 jersey, just because he has a well-established partnership with Len Ikitau at test level, nonetheless, Joe Schmidt is trying not to change so many things, I think, whilst there's so many other forced changes going around through injury and elsewhere. So it'll be really interesting to see how these guys go up against Andre Esterhuizen. Sorry, forgive my pronunciation. And Jesse Creel. Obviously, Jesse Creel, probably the best number 13 in the world, if not at least top 3. Andre Esterhuizen, one of the biggest 12s in world rugby, and he is also known to be able to play number 8. So we could see him, although Rassie Erasmus has gone with a 5-3 split, could very well be that Andre Esterhuizen, if anyone wants to comment in the comments below how to get that pronunciation perfect, please do so. I'm always ready for feedback. But if Andre shifts into the number 8, that means that the pack won't be carrying such a heavy load at altitude, and that seems like a really smart tactic. But nonetheless, you can only play with what you have in front of you, and should there be more back injuries, then that may be a concern that they'll have to cover that way, and they won't be able to give as much respite to the forwards. But you got to always have a plan for something. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. But yes, so Lenny Kitau and Joseph-Aukuso Suaalii should really work to stress the seams between Manie Libbok, between Esterhuizen, and also between Creel. Those 3 players have not played a lot of rugby together at test level, let alone club level, and that also goes for the majority of the backline, apart from the Stormers spine of Grant Williams, Manie Libbok, and also Efilele Fassi there at fullback. So it is going to be really, really important that the Wallabies trust their skill set, trust themselves in attack to be able to stress the seams and stress the skills of those players. But in defense, they're going to have to be really, really staunch, because the number 12 and number 13 for the Springboks are no jokes. They are powerful, fast, and they are definitely going to be able to find seams and weak shoulders if the Wallabies give them to them. Heading into the forward pack for the Wallabies, a front row of James Slipper, Billy Pollard, and Taniela Tupou. That is the best front row, scrummaging front row, that they could muster. Taniela Tupou scrummaged extremely well against Ellis Genge and Andrew Porter in the British and Irish Lions series, in the last game there, and then Billy Pollard and James Slipper both have done great jobs throughout the entire series, as well as prior in the Fiji game for James Slipper. He has been the absolute cornerstone, the foundations for this scrum, and although the Springboks are a massive step up on the British and Irish Lions scrum, nonetheless, James Slipper and Taniela Tupou have to back themselves in a test match to be able to at least be able to survive the scrum battle, so they're not leaking repetitive scrum penalties to the Springbok side, which is what they'll be looking to do. Oxen Che is the best loose head in the world, and the 2 guys next to him, Malcolm Marks and Wilco Lowe, are no slouches either. They'd probably walk into most 23s in and around the world. So they have the Wallabies front row have their work cut out for them, but nonetheless, I have full faith that James Slipper, Billy Pollard, and Taniela Tupou will be able to survive the scrum challenge and to at least not leak those penalties in the high amounts. We'll probably look at around 3 to 4 penalties, but that is what you'd expect, and we definitely don't want any more than that. So if they can limit to that, then they've done a pretty good job. Going to the back row, Nick Frost, the height of Nick Frost power mixed with the power of Will Skelton. That's going to be a really, really, really great matchup with the Springboks in Lou Diaga and Eben Etzebeth. I can't wait to see Etzebeth v Skelton. That is going to be a clash of the titans, and that's going to be worth the price of admission itself. Really, really exciting to see how they go about targeting Skelton at the line-out, because they would have seen how the Wallabies used Skelton throughout the Lions series, and so it's going to be really, really interesting to see how the Springboks adapt that, particularly when it's the Wallabies ball. Will they be following Skelton? Will they put someone on him specifically, because he did catch a ball at the front in Test 2, caught a ball at the back for the first one in Test 3 against the Lions. It's going to be really interesting to see how an Etzebeth and Ludiaga kind of deal with that, because they are very experienced. They are great line-out operators, where the Wallabies don't quite have that experience. Nick Frost, very tall man, but unfortunately when it comes to the South Africans, very rarely are you the only ones with a bit of height there. Then you go into the back row, Tom Hooper, Fraser McReight, and Harry Wilson. That is a great, great combination. Obviously, they're missing out on Rob Valetini. This is a big, huge loss. He's out for this game. Not sure whether he's out for both games. It's kind of unclear at this point in the night, at 10:30, 10:45 at night. Almost 11, actually. So the back row is heavy on ball, with Tom Hooper and Fraser McReight both ready to do a job there. Fraser McReight definitely the more prolific ball stealer, and actually is one of the best ball stealers at the test level. So he's going to be looking to do a job there. Tom Hooper definitely good at slowing down ball and getting in and around that breakdown. Ben O'Keefe, which is refereeing this game, definitely had a little bit more of an eye on the Wallabies in his first British and Irish Lions test that he refereed. So it'll be interesting to see if that changes or is that retained, because the Wallabies will be comfortable with how they know how he's going to referee that breakdown challenge. So that's going to be vital for their information. Then going on to Harry Wilson, it's going to be really interesting to see how he goes about his carrying, because he did not necessarily break the gain line against the British and Irish Lions, and I can't see him doing that again against the Springboks, who are bigger men, who are very, very staunch and rough tacklers. So it'll be interesting to see how Wilson then kind of goes to adapt his game to be able to move on, to be able to really release the players in and around himself, whether that's a James O'Connor, whether it's a Fraser McReight, whether it's a Tom Hooper or a Nick Frost. It is going to be crucial that Harry Wilson continues to build on his game to be able to free up the guys around him, because that's what he does. He's a good distributor, putting other people in space, as well as finding some weak shoulders and making some gain line meters for himself. So if we head onto the bench briefly, Brandon Paenga-Amosa, Angus Bell, and Zane Nongor, a good front row, but I'm not holding my breath that they're going to be able to hold their own against the Springboks front row. I haven't been overly impressed with the scrummaging of Angus Bell. Brandon Paenga-Amosa is definitely the biggest hooker that the Wallabies can muster, but I don't know if that's going to be enough next to the inexperience of these two props, particularly Zane Nongor, who has very few test caps. The back row replacements / second row replacements, Jeremy Williams, extremely good low gear grunt driver, not the biggest lock forward that you can ask for, but definitely has the work rate factor, and his technique is extremely good. So if he gets into late into the game, then he has to replace Will Skelton. I reckon Will Skelton will probably get 45, maybe just 50 minutes. It's going to be an altitude, so I'm probably 45 minutes. And then he's going to have to replace him and really put in a shift there in the physical battle. But I think that Will Skelton and the rest of the boys have really set the tone from the third test in the Lions game, so the Lions series. So it's definitely going to be the need of Jeremy Williams, Nick Frost, Langy Gleeson, who's probably the most potent ball carrier on this entire side and has been the most consistent over the Lions series and in the Fiji test. Is going to come off the bench in the jersey 20, and obviously Nick Champion de Crepney, another big man who's played for Cast previously, now playing for the Western Force, and it's going to be really interesting to see how he goes in this absolute pressure cooker of playing other men that are just as big, just as abrasive as he is. We're going to need a little bit more from him on the attacking side, but on the defensive side, I think he's going to be able to hold his own, and I think that he's going to be a huge benefit to the Wallabies in this particular kind of situation. So I can see that Tom Hooper is going to probably slot into the second row. Nick Frost might actually get a break, and that means that Nick Champion de Crepney goes onto the side. Jeremy Williams goes into the second row with Tom Hooper, depending on who's more tired, and then Langy Gleeson probably sticks somewhere there on the side of the scrum, maybe. But it's going to be really interesting to see whether Harry Wilson or it is Tom Hooper that go the full 80, but I do think it's going to be Fraser McWright that goes the full 80. As far as a score prediction goes, I think with my podcast earlier with Harry Jones earlier in the week, if you did get that, please go and watch that. He explains and outlines all the new South African players that maybe some people here in Australia and across the rest of the world haven't actually come across and don't know too much about. But in that video, I did say that it would be a 35 to 12 point victory to the Springboks. I think I'm going to hold to that. So that's, it's a big margin, but I don't think it's as big as some expected. But I think that with this 6-2 split and be able to retain the majority of the nucleus that played throughout the British and Irish Lions series, I think they're going to have great combination. And I think that cohesion and battle-heartedness from that test series is going to be able to hold them within that kind of 20-point margin. And I think that with a team like this, they've got enough threats in the back line and in the forward line to score at least around 12 points. Just a quick mention, Tate McDermott, Andrew Kellaway on the bench, and I think that should James O'Connor not be able to make it to 80 minutes, I would expect that Andrew Kellaway goes into the 10 jersey and the status quo remains in the back three with Max Jorgensen on the wing and Tom Wright at fullback. Tom Wright has played 10 previously, but I can see that Andrew Kellaway fits that mold a little bit better with Tom Wright being such a great attacking weapon at the back and Andrew Kellaway being such a great communicator and quite a cool, calm head and a mature player. Tate McDermott continues to bring the spark off the bench. I am surprised that Nick White didn't actually come off the bench, and I would like to see Ryan Lonergan because I think that he's such a great player. But with all this forced rotation, I think that Joe Schmidt is especially wanted to retain some sort of normality and some sort of cohesion and continuity, and that's what he's done with Tate McDermott on the bench. So he doesn't get a crack starting. He comes off the bench again after Nick White really proved himself to be of great form in that last British and Irish Lions test. But guys, that's it. It is 11:05 p.m. at night. I've got work tomorrow, so I'm going to sign off. Please let me know what you think about the team. Let me know what you think about the matchups. Let me know what you think about the predictions in the comments below. Give me a like and a subscribe, please. If you do feel like you get value from the channel, don't forget to check out my interview that I did with Harry Jones earlier in the week. It was a really good chat, and he's a really great guy with lots of funny commentary about rugby, as well as being a very good wordsmith. So until then, guys, enjoy your rugby. A review of the game will be coming out. I will try to include some All Blacks and Los Pumas stuff. So enjoy your weekend of rugby, and I can't wait to see you guys on the next one. Ciao for now.